Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her workbench, her dark eyes reflecting the swirling patterns of quantum calculations. The numbers didn't lie, but according to every physics textbook in the Galactic Library, what she was seeing should be impossible. She ran her fingers through her short black hair, a habit that had intensified during the 3 years she'd spent on this project. "Computer, run simulation sequence Delta 9 again," she commanded, her voice steady despite her excitement. The hologram shifted, showing the intricate dance of particles and energy fields that made up her experimental engine design. Traditional alien physics said these components should tear themselves apart. Instead, they worked in perfect harmony. The door to her lab hissed open, and Commander Marcus Drake stepped in, his broad shoulders filling the doorframe. His presence in the civilian research facility would have been unusual 6 months ago, before the raid started. Now, the sight of a coalition military uniform was becoming commonplace. "Dr. Chen." He nodded, his gray eyes taking in the complex equations floating in the air. "Please tell me you have good news. The Strethka hit another colony yesterday." Sarah's jaw tightened. The Strethka, a species of advanced pirates, had been systematically targeting human settlements, always staying one step ahead of coalition military vessels. Their ships used technology that made them nearly impossible to catch, at least with conventional engines. "I do have news, Commander." She turned to face him, gesturing at the hologram. "But I'm not sure the Galactic Science Council will consider it good. What I've created here, it breaks about a dozen of their fundamental laws of physics." Drake raised an eyebrow. "Does it work?" "In simulation, yes. The quantum resonance drive doesn't just match Strethka capabilities, it exceeds them. By combining principles from human quantum mechanics with elements of Arcson field theory and Mendari wave dynamics, I've created something new. Something that shouldn't be possible. But it is possible," Drake stated, not asking. Sarah nodded, pulling up another simulation. "The aliens think in rigid categories. Quantum mechanics can't work with Arcson fields. Mendari wave dynamics destroys any other energy pattern it touches. These are treated as absolute laws. But they're not laws. They're just patterns no one bothered to look beyond." The simulation showed a sleek ship design, its engine core pulsing with impossible combinations of energy. "We humans have always been good at looking beyond, at asking what if. What if these technologies don't conflict, but complement each other in ways no one ever thought to try?" Drake studied the design, his military training letting him grasp the tactical implications immediately. "How soon can you build a prototype?" "That's the problem." Sarah sighed. "I can't. Not legally. The Council has to approve any new drive system, and they'll never accept this. It breaks too many of their rules." "Rules?" Drake's voice carried a hint of contempt. "Rules that are getting our people killed while the Strethka raid our colonies at will." He straightened, decision made. "What if I told you there's a way to build it without Council approval?" Sarah's eyes narrowed. "I'm listening." "Project Phoenix," Drake said. "A classified coalition initiative to develop advanced defense technologies. We operate outside normal channels. Complete autonomy, unlimited resources, no bureaucratic oversight. And no Council interference." Sarah finished, understanding dawning. "That's why you've been visiting the lab. You've been watching me." Drake nodded. "We've been following your work for months. The quantum resonance drive could be exactly what we need. Not just to stop the Strethka, but to show the galaxy that humanity won't be bound by their limitations." Sarah looked back at her calculations, at 3 years of work that challenged everything the alien scientists believed about physics. She thought of the colonies lost, the lives destroyed because humanity's ships couldn't catch the raiders. Rules were important. They helped understand the universe. But rules could be wrong. Rules could change. "When do we start?" she asked. Drake smiled. "Pack your essential data. A transport leaves for the Phoenix facility in 2 hours. Time to show the galaxy what happens when humans decide to rewrite the rules." As Sarah began transferring her research files, alerts flashed across her screens. The lab's quantum sensors were detecting unusual energy signatures in orbit. She pulled up the sensor feed, her heart racing. "Commander," she called out, "we have company. Srethka energy signatures. 3 ships just dropped out of faster than light." Drake was already at the communications panel. "This is no coincidence. They must know about your work." He hit the emergency frequency. "This is Commander Drake. Priority 1 alert. All personnel evacuate immediately. Security teams to defensive positions." The building's alarm system blared to life as Sarah frantically downloaded her research to secure quantum memory crystals. Outside, she could hear the whine of defensive shields activating. "How much time do you need?" Drake asked, checking his sidearm. 2 minutes to complete the core data transfer. "But the prototype designs." "Get the core data. Nothing else matters if we don't make it to the transport." The first explosions rocked the building as Srethka weapons fire tested the shields. Sarah's hands flew over the controls, watching the progress bar crawl across her screen. Everything she'd discovered, everything she'd proven possible, was being compressed into a crystal the size of her thumb. 1 minute, she reported, trying to keep her voice steady as another blast shook the lab. Drake was at the door, coordinating with security teams through his comm unit. "Shields at 60%. They're hitting us hard. They definitely know what's in here." The progress bar reached completion just as the lights flickered. Sarah grabbed the crystal, securing it in a protective case. "Done." "Move," Drake ordered, leading her into the corridor. They ran through the evacuating facility, alarms blaring and emergency lights casting everything in red shadows. The sound of energy weapons grew closer. They were nearly to the emergency exit when the first Srethka breached the building. Sarah caught a glimpse of their armored forms, tall, insectoid, moving with deadly precision. Drake shoved her behind a support column as energy bolts sizzled through the air where they'd been standing. "The transport pad is 30 meters ahead," he said, returning fire. "When I give the word, run. Don't stop, don't look back." Sarah clutched the case containing her research. 3 years of work, proof that humanity could go beyond the limits aliens thought impossible. She wasn't going to let it fall into Srethka hands. Drake threw a sonic grenade, its detonation filling the corridor with disorienting waves that sent the Srethka warriors staggering. Now. They ran, energy bolts crackling around them. The transport pad was ahead, its emergency power giving it a blue glow. Sarah's lungs burned as she sprinted, hearing the chittering sounds of Srethka pursuit. They reached the pad just as the facility's shields began to fail. Drake slammed the emergency transport activation as more Srethka poured into the room. Sarah felt the familiar tingle of transport energy, just as a bolt of green energy sizzled past her head. The world dissolved in blue light, and when it reformed, they were in the armored transport bay of a coalition cruiser. Medical teams and security personnel swarmed around them as the ship's engines roared to life, carrying them away from the facility and the Srethka raiders. "Data secure?" Drake asked, helping Sarah to her feet. She patted the case at her side, managing a tired smile. "Secure. Ready to rewrite some laws of physics." "Good." Drake's expression was grim but determined. Because after this attack, Project Phoenix just became even more critical. Time to show the galaxy that humanity's done playing by their rules. The cruiser jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying them toward a secret facility where Sarah's impossible engine would become reality. The Srethka had just proven how desperately humanity needed this technology. But they'd also proven something else. The aliens were afraid of what humanity might achieve when they stopped accepting impossible as an answer. The Project Phoenix facility hung in space like a dark jewel, its position masked by overlapping stealth fields and quantum disruption generators. Inside the massive engineering bay, Sarah Chen watched as robotic assemblers brought her impossible engine to life. 3 months had passed since the Srethka attack. 3 months of working with the most advanced technology humanity could access, much of it acquired through means the Galactic Council wouldn't approve of. The prototype ship taking shape before her represented more violations of galactic law than she could count. Beautiful, isn't she? Commander Drake appeared beside her at the observation window. Below them, the Atlas's quantum resonance core pulsed with energy patterns that made alien sensors malfunction. The Council's Scientific Advisory Board would have collective seizures if they saw this. Sarah nodded, checking readings on her tablet. The quantum Arcsin matrix is stable. Mendari wave integration at 93% and climbing. We're achieving power levels that their equations say should collapse into a singularity. But they haven't, Drake smiled. Because their equations are wrong. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red warning lights began flashing as security teams rushed to their stations. Sarah's tablet lit up with urgent notifications. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. A voice announced over the facility's comm system. Council registry. Heavy cruiser escort. They're demanding immediate access for inspection teams. Drake's expression hardened. They found us. Somehow they found us. He activated his command link. This is Commander Drake. Initiate Protocol Omega. All research teams, secure your data. Security teams to defensive positions. Sarah was already moving, her fingers flying over control panels. The Atlas isn't ready. We need at least 12 more hours to complete the core integration. We don't have 12 hours, Drake said grimly. The Council's been looking for any excuse to shut us down. One look at what we're building here, and they'll do exactly that. Through the observation window, they could see the Atlas's skeletal frame. Most of its systems were in place, but crucial parts of the hull were still incomplete. It wasn't ready for space, let alone combat. Commander, the facility's AI announced, Council ships are taking up strategic positions. Their weapons are powered but not targeted. They're transmitting official inspection authorization codes. Stall them, Drake ordered. Tell them our communication systems are experiencing technical difficulties. Buy us as much time as possible. Sarah pulled up the Atlas's system diagnostics. Maybe we don't need 12 hours. If we focus on just the essential systems, propulsion, life support, basic shields. How long? 2 hours. Maybe less if we push it. It won't be pretty, but it might fly. Drake nodded. Do it. I'll handle the Council ships. He paused, looking at her intently. You understand what this means. If we power up that engine, if we prove it works, there's no going back. The Council will declare us rogue scientists, probably charge us with violating dozens of technology treaties. Sarah thought of her years of research, of all the times alien scientists had told her human theories were wrong, impossible, dangerous. She thought of the colonies lost to the Strethka because humanity's ships weren't fast enough. They're already afraid of what we might achieve, she said. Maybe it's time to show them why. The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. Sarah coordinated teams of engineers and technicians, pushing the Atlas's construction to its limits. The ship would be ugly, exposed systems, minimal hull plating, but its heart, the impossible engine she designed, would work. Commander Drake's voice came over the comm periodically, updating them on the diplomatic dance with the Council ships. The inspectors were getting impatient, their demands more insistent. Core integration complete, Sarah announced as the quantum resonance drive hummed to life. Basic systems online. She's not pretty, but she'll fly. She'll have to, Drake replied. Because we just ran out of time. The Council ships are powering up tractor beams. They're done asking nicely. Sarah was already running toward the Atlas's entry hatch, followed by a minimal crew of volunteers. They'd known this moment might come, had planned for it, but the reality was still shocking. All hands, battle stations, Drake's voice echoed through the facility. Prepare for emergency protocols. The Atlas's bridge was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining alien technology in ways that violated countless patents and treaties. Sarah took the main control station, her hands moving across hybrid interfaces that merged quantum controls with conventional systems. Council ships are deploying boarding craft, the facility's AI reported. They're transmitting orders for all personnel to stand down or face arrest for illegal weapons research. Status, Drake asked as he entered the bridge, taking the command chair. Engine at 60% and rising, Sarah reported. Hull integrity minimal but holding. Basic shields online. Navigation systems ready. Weapons? Not even close. We'll be completely defenseless. Drake smiled grimly. Then we'd better be fast. All stations, prepare for emergency launch. Facility control, initiate Protocol Phoenix. Throughout the massive facility, explosive bolts detonated, releasing docking clamps. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut as sections began venting atmosphere in controlled bursts, creating a chaotic environment that would hamper the Council boarding teams. Council ships are launching interceptors, the tactical officer reported. They're moving to box us in. Not going to happen, Drake said. Dr. Chen, show them what your impossible engine can do. Sarah's hands danced across the controls, feeding power to systems that alien science said couldn't exist. The quantum resonance core pulsed with impossible energy, creating harmonics that made reality itself seem to blur around the ship. Atlas Actual, this is Council Command. A stern voice came over their comm. Power down immediately. Your vessel is in violation of multiple technology treaties. This is your final warning. Drake opened a channel. Council Command, this is Commander Marcus Drake. You want to see what this ship can do. Watch carefully. He nodded to Sarah. All yours, Doctor. Break some rules. Sarah Chen, who had spent years being told what was impossible, allowed herself a small smile as she engaged the quantum resonance drive. The Atlas moved, and physics itself seemed to hold its breath. The ship didn't just accelerate, it rewrote the laws of motion. Council sensors would later show impossible readings, energy patterns that defied their understanding of reality. The Atlas slipped through their carefully arranged blockade like smoke through fingers, leaving confusion and disbelief in its wake. Multiple Council ships attempting pursuit, Tactical reported. Their engines are at maximum, but they're falling behind. They can't match our velocity. Of course they can't, Sarah said softly, watching her engine's performance readings with pride. They're still playing by the old rules. As the Atlas raced away from the facility, alarms began blaring. Council ships firing warning shots, Tactical announced, attempting to establish a tractor lock. Let them try, Sarah said, making adjustments to the quantum field. Their tractor beams are based on standard physics models. We're operating on a whole different level. The Council ships' attempts to capture the Atlas failed spectacularly. Their energy beams seemed to slide off the quantum field surrounding the ship, unable to establish a grip on something that violated their understanding of physics. We're clear of their weapons range, Tactical reported. Pursuing vessels falling behind rapidly. They can't match our speed. Drake stood at the center of his bridge, watching the Council ships dwindle to dots on their sensors. Send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them Project Phoenix is now active. The Atlas has proven the concept. Humanity is ready to start breaking some rules. Sarah monitored her engine's performance, noting how it exceeded even her theoretical models. They had done more than escape. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to look beyond accepted limitations. Where to now? She asked. Drake's expression was determined. The Strethka hit another colony while we were building the Atlas. Time to show them what happens when humanity decides to rewrite the rules of physics. Plot a course to the outer colonies. We have some pirates to catch. The Atlas streaked through space, its impossible engine leaving a trail of broken physical laws in its wake. The Council ships fell further and further behind, their crews struggling to explain how a half-built prototype had simply ignored their most advanced technology. Humanity had served notice. The rules were about to change. The colony of New Horizon was burning. From the Atlas's bridge, Sarah watched as Strethka raiders systematically tore through the settlement's defenses. The aliens' energy weapons carved glowing paths through reinforced structures, while their ships maintained a blockade in low orbit. Picking up multiple distress signals, the communications officer reported, "Colonial Defense Forces are overwhelmed. They're requesting immediate assistance." Commander Drake studied the tactical display, where 6 Strethka vessels moved with practiced precision. "Status of our systems. Engine at full capacity," Sarah reported, her fingers dancing across her controls. "Hull integrity still compromised in sections 3 through 7, but the quantum field is compensating. Basic shields are holding. Still no weapons. Not conventional ones." Sarah's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "But maybe we don't need them. Commander, what if we could turn our engine's signature itself into a weapon?" Drake raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "The Strethka use quantum-locked navigation systems. Very precise, very effective. But our engine, it doesn't just break physics, it locally rewrites quantum states. If we get close enough, we could disrupt their entire navigation network," Drake finished. "Leave them blind. And more," Sarah added. "Their weapons, their shields, everything they have is based on stable quantum states. We're about to introduce some serious instability." Drake smiled grimly. "Time to show these raiders why they shouldn't have pushed humanity too far. Take us in." The Atlas moved like a ghost through space, its impossible engine bending reality around it. On the Strethka ship's sensors, the human vessel appeared as a blur of contradictory readings, a quantum anomaly that shouldn't exist. "They're detecting us," Tactical reported. "Raiders breaking off their attack on the colony. All ships moving to intercept." "Good," Drake said. "Let them come. Dr. Chen, ready to show them what happens when humans decide to break the rules." Sarah nodded, making final adjustments to the quantum resonance core. "Ready, Commander. On your mark." The Strethka ships opened fire, their energy weapons slicing through space toward the Atlas. But the quantum field surrounding the human ship did more than just deflect the attacks. It absorbed them, the impossible engine incorporating the enemy's energy into its own patterns. "Energy absorption at 120% of theoretical maximum," Sarah announced, her voice tight with excitement. "The quantum field is learning, adapting. Every shot they fire makes us stronger." The lead Strethka vessel transmitted a demand for surrender, its message filled with the chittering sounds of their language. "Unknown ship, your design violates Council regulations. Power down and prepare for boarding." Drake opened a channel. "This is Commander Drake of the Atlas. You've been raiding human colonies, killing our people, because your technology was superior. Time to see how you handle someone who doesn't play by your rules." The Atlas dove into the heart of the Strethka formation. As they passed within 1,000 kilometers of the first raider, Sarah's predictions proved devastatingly accurate. The quantum disruption from their engine sent cascading failures through the alien vessel's systems. Its carefully calibrated quantum-locked weapons went dark. Its shields flickered and died. "It's working," Sarah exclaimed. "Their quantum matrices are completely destabilizing. They can't maintain weapon lock or navigational control." The Strethka ships began to break formation, their movements becoming erratic as the Atlas's impossible engine wreaked havoc with their technology. 2 vessels collided, their crews unable to compensate for the quantum instabilities rippling through their systems. "They're trying to retreat," Tactical reported, "but their FTL drives won't engage. The quantum disruption is too severe." Drake stood at the center of his bridge, watching as humanity's most advanced achievement systematically dismantled the raiders who had terrorized their colonies. "Launch contact teams. Once their systems are completely down, I want boarding parties ready. Time to show them the human way of doing things." The battle, if it could be called that, was over in minutes. The Atlas's quantum field had rendered the Strethka's advanced technology useless. Coalition Marines boarded the disabled raiders, securing crews who had suddenly found themselves on the wrong side of technological superiority. Sarah monitored the quantum readings as the engine's disruption effect slowly stabilized. The field is maintaining integrity. We could theoretically extend this effect over a much larger area. Any ship using quantum-locked systems would be helpless, which includes most of the Council's military vessels, Drake noted. No wonder they were so afraid of this technology. You haven't just built a better engine, Dr. Chen. You've created something that changes the entire balance of power in the galaxy. The colonial defense forces were already moving in, securing the disabled Strethka vessels and evacuating wounded civilians. On the surface, emergency teams worked to contain the fires the raiders had started. Incoming transmission from the colony, communications announced. They're cheering, sir. The colonists are cheering for us. Drake smiled. Send word to Coalition Command. The Atlas has proven itself in combat. The Strethka raiders have been neutralized, and we've demonstrated that humanity's approach to physics works better than following the Council's rules. Sarah studied the engine readings, noting how the quantum field had evolved during the battle. The Council will say we've gone too far, that this technology is too dangerous to exist. The Council said humans weren't ready for advanced spaceflight. Drake replied. They said we weren't mature enough to handle quantum mechanics. They've been telling us what we can't do since we joined the galactic community. Maybe it's time they learned that humanity's greatest strength is doing exactly what everyone else says is impossible. But even as the Atlas's crew celebrated their victory, new alerts began flashing across Sarah's console. The quantum sensors were detecting something massive, something old, moving in the depths of space. The victory over the Strethka had proven their technology worked, but it had also drawn attention. Something ancient had noticed their violation of physics, and it was awakening. Commander, Sarah called out, her voice tense. You need to see these readings. Something's out there, something that makes our quantum disruptions look like a child's toy. The battle against the Strethka had been won, but Sarah Chen's impossible engine had done more than just break the Council's rules. It had caught the attention of beings who had written those rules in the first place. The real test of humanity's determination to chart its own course was about to begin. The quantum anomaly filled the Atlas's U-screen, a massive structure that defied conventional physics. Its surface shifted and flowed like liquid metal, but sensor readings showed it was older than human civilization. Sarah had never seen anything like it, but her impossible engine had drawn its attention. Analysis, Drake asked, standing at the center of the bridge as his crew worked frantically to understand what they were facing. Sarah studied the readings, her excitement warring with apprehension. It's like looking at a mirror of our quantum resonance drive, but infinitely more advanced. The structure isn't just bending physics, it's actively rewriting local spacetime. Incoming transmission, communications reported. Sir, it's using all frequencies simultaneously. That should be impossible. Drake nodded. Seems to be a lot of that going around lately. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge wasn't sound. It was pure information, transmitted directly into their minds. UAAV violity, ED the constraints. The barriers between realities must be maintained. Sarah's quantum sensors were going crazy. The ancient structure was generating energy patterns that made her engine look like a child's science project. Commander, I'm detecting similar structures activating throughout the sector. They're forming a network. An ancient defense system, Drake realized, left behind by whoever wrote the rules of physics we've been breaking. The voice continued, each word carrying the weight of eons. We are architects. We shape the laws of das universe to prevent that colapse. Your primitive ATTMPTs at manipulation 3ATN the barriers. Through the view screen, they watched as more structures emerged from subspace, each one a masterpiece of impossible physics. The Atlas, which had seemed so advanced against the Strethka, now felt like a primitive prototype. Sir, Tactical reported, the structures are generating some kind of containment field. They're trying to lock us in place. Sarah's hands flew across her controls. The quantum field is holding, but barely. Their technology. It's not just more advanced, it's fundamentally different. They're not breaking the rules. They're operating on a level where our rules don't even apply. Drake opened a channel. This is Commander Marcus Drake of the coalition vessel Atlas. We're not your enemy. We're explorers, innovators. We're trying to understand the universe, just like you did. Understanding, without wisdom, brings destruction, the architects responded. Your species, like he case, the maturity to manipulate reality. You must be contained until you learn. The containment field grew stronger, reality itself seeming to crystallize around the Atlas. But Sarah noticed something strange in the readings. Commander, look at this. The field. It's not just restraining us. It's studying us. Learning from us, just like we learned from the Strethka weapons. They're afraid, Drake realized, not just of what we might do, but of how we think. We're not following their predetermined path of development. Sarah's eyes lit up with sudden understanding. That's it. They didn't write the rules of physics. They wrote guidelines, patterns they thought would guide species towards safe technological development. But humans, we see patterns differently, Drake finished. We don't just follow them. We question them, combine them in new ways. The architect's voice returned, but there was a new tone to it. Curiosity mixed with concern. Your methods are chaotic, unpredictable. You combine technologies without understanding the consequences. No, Sarah spoke up, her voice firm. We understand the consequences better than you think. We know the risks of breaking rules, but we also understand why those rules exist in the first place. That's what makes us different. She pulled up the engine diagnostics, displaying them openly. Look at our quantum resonance drive. Yes, it breaks your rules about energy patterns and field interactions, but it doesn't break them randomly. It breaks them purposefully with understanding. We're not threatening the barriers between realities. We're learning to work with them in new ways. The containment field fluctuated as the architects processed this. Around them, the ancient structures shifted, their impossible surfaces reflecting patterns similar to the Atlas's quantum field. Interesting, the architects communicated. Your species does not follow the expected patterns, yet your CAOs has structure, purpose. Drake stepped forward. That's humanity's greatest strength. We don't just break rules. We understand why they exist, then find new ways to work with them. Yes, our methods may seem chaotic, but that chaos leads to innovation, to new understanding. The quantum sensors detected subtle changes in the ancient network. The structures were no longer trying to contain them. They were studying them, learning from them, just as Sarah's engine learned from the energies it encountered. Your approach is unique, the architects acknowledge. Perhaps there is wisdom in chaos, way in properly understood. Sarah watched in amazement as the ancient structures began to resonate with the Atlas's quantum field, not fighting it but working with it, creating new patterns that neither humanity nor the architects had imagined alone. They're not just accepting us, she said softly. They're learning from us, just as we can learn from them. Drake smiled. That's another human trait. We don't just break rules. We help write new ones, better ones, based on deeper understanding. The containment field dissolved, replaced by a complex network of quantum interactions that enhanced rather than restricted the Atlas's capabilities. The ancient defense system hadn't just accepted humanity's presence, it had recognized the value in their different approach. Perhaps, the architects communicated, it is time for the old patterns to evolve. Your species may help shape the any ones. As the Atlas crew watched in wonder, the ancient structures began sharing their knowledge, not as rigid rules to be followed, but as principles to be understood and built upon. Humanity hadn't just broken the rules of physics. They'd proven why understanding those rules was more important than blindly following them. But even as they celebrated this breakthrough, Sarah's quantum sensors detected something else stirring in the depths of space, something that saw humanity's potential as a threat rather than an opportunity. The architects weren't the only ancient power watching humanity's rise, and not all of them would be so willing to learn from chaos. The void between stars erupted with impossible energies as the entity emerged. Unlike the ordered patterns of the architect's structures, this ancient power radiated chaotic quantum distortions that made reality itself scream. The Atlas's sensors could barely process what they were seeing. By all the laws of physics, Sarah whispered, watching her readings spike beyond measurement. It's beautiful and terrifying. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, Tactical reported. Whatever this thing is, it's tearing holes in space-time itself. The entity's voice crashed through their minds, ancient and cold. The architects grow weak, accepting imperfection. The barriers must be maintained. Order must be preserved. The architect's defense network hummed with power, their structures moving to intercept the entity. This species was pyromiac. They understand the paternance in bodily ways, though ead noticio inside the yard. Understanding is not enough. The entity responded. Their CHAOs CRADs. They must be eliminated before they infect other RCEs with their disorder. Reality warped around them as the entity attacked. Space itself seemed to crystallize, trying to lock the Atlas and the architect's structures into rigid patterns that would eliminate any possibility of change or innovation. Their quantum field is different from the architect's, Sarah reported, her fingers dancing across controls as she fought to keep the Atlas's engine stable. It's not trying to guide or contain. It's trying to freeze everything into absolute, unchanging patterns. Drake watched as the architect's ancient structures engaged the entity, impossible energies clashing in ways that human science couldn't explain. They're buying us time. But against that level of power, Commander, Sarah's voice held a note of excitement that Drake had learned to recognize. I have an idea. It's crazy, probably impossible, definitely dangerous. In other words, perfectly human. Drake smiled. What are you thinking? Sarah pulled up the engine diagnostics. The entity wants perfect order, unchanging patterns. The architects create guided patterns that allow for controlled development. But our engine, it doesn't just break patterns, it creates new ones. What if we could combine all three approaches? You want to merge our technology with both ancient systems. The power levels alone would tear us apart. Not if we use the entity's own rigidity against it. Sarah's eyes were bright with inspiration. Its need for perfect order makes it predictable. We can use that, create a resonance that. The ship shuddered as another reality warping blast from the entity washed over them. The architect's defensive network was beginning to fail under the onslaught of pure order. Your resistance is futile, the entity proclaimed. Order must be maintained. Chaos must be eliminated. Drake looked at his crew, saw the determination in their eyes. Dr. Chen, what do you need? Full power to the quantum resonance drive. And I need the architects to trust us. Drake opened a channel to the ancient defense network. You've seen how humanity approaches problems. We don't just break rules. We understand them, then find new ways to work with them. Trust us one more time. There was a pause as reality twisted around them. Then, we will assist. Your CAAOs hayes PRPOs show us this NEDUKATTRN. Sarah's hands flew across her controls, linking the Atlas's quantum field with the architect's network. The ship's impossible engine began to pulse with new energy as it incorporated the ancient patterns into its own operations. Entity approaching, Tactical warned. Its quantum field is trying to lock all of reality into unchanging patterns. Perfect, Sarah said softly. Let it come. The entity's power crashed against them like a tide of crystallized spacetime. But instead of resisting, the Atlas's hybrid field bent and flowed, incorporating the rigid patterns into its own chaos. The architect's structures added their power, creating a three-way resonance that had never existed before. What is TIS? The entity's voice held confusion for the first time in eons. The Paturns, they chang, yet, war human an ordered. This is not possible. That's humanity's greatest gift to the universe, Drake said. We see possibility where others see impossibility. We find order in chaos and chaos in order. The quantum resonance grew stronger as three different approaches to reality merged and transformed. The entity's rigid patterns became part of a greater whole. Its power turned to creation rather than stagnation. Your PATTRN. The entity's voice was changing, showing the first hints of understanding. It is not CAOS. It is evolution. That's what we've been trying to show you, Sarah said, watching as the impossible energies stabilized into new forms. Rules exist for a reason, but they're meant to be understood, not just followed. When you understand them deeply enough, you can work with them in new ways. The battle that had threatened to tear reality apart transformed into something else. A merger of different approaches, a new way of understanding the quantum nature of existence. The entity's rigid order, the architect's guided patterns, and humanity's innovative chaos combined into something greater than any of them had imagined alone. We see now, the entity and the architect spoke together, their ancient consciousness expanded by this new understanding. The PTTERN is not FedEx. It grows, EVOVDs, BCOMEs more than it does. As the quantum energies settled into new configurations, Sarah looked at her engine readings with amazement. The quantum field, it's not just stable, it's evolving. We're not just breaking the rules anymore, we're helping write new ones. Drake smiled. That's what humans do best. We take what exists, understand it, and help it become something more. The Atlas hung in space, surrounded by ancient powers that had shaped the universe. But they were no longer enemies or obstacles. They were partners in understanding reality in new ways. Your species, has shown us ANEWTAth, the combined voices of the ancients acknowledge. Order and CHAOS, PATERN and innovation, all part of a greater whole. Does this mean you'll stop trying to control how other races develop? Drake asked. We will do it, but in no is to your way is Peruvian. They ate understand as more valuable than blind obedience. As the Atlas crew began documenting the incredible changes they'd witnessed, Sarah looked at her engine displays with pride. The quantum resonance drive hadn't just broken the rules, it had helped create new ones, better ones, based on deeper understanding. You know, she said to Drake, the Council's going to have a fit when they learn about all this. Drake laughed. Let them. It's time they learned what humanity's been trying to tell them all along. The universe isn't about following rules. It's about understanding them well enough to know when and how to break them. The Atlas began its journey home, carrying not just a revolutionary engine, but a new understanding of reality itself. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in defying the impossible, but in understanding it deeply enough to make it possible. And somewhere in the depths of space, ancient powers that had once sought to control the universe's development watched with new interest as humanity continued to explore, innovate, and show that sometimes the best way to follow rules was to help them evolve into something greater.